Gotta write it in an attic. There's no living without you. I'm an addict. Deep down, I know. You're not an addict for you. Now I'm living my life one day at a time. Oh, can I see the future so clear? And it's not what I mean. I mean, it's not what it seems. I just keep living for dreams. And it's not what I mean. I mean, it's not what it seems. I just keep living for dreams. Gotta write a classics. Gotta write it in an attic. Babe, I'm an addict now. I'm an addict for your love. Gotta write it down, set it right away. And I'm not trust there's no need without you. Deep down, I know. And I'm hearing the words I say. Gotta write it down, set it right away. And I'm out of control without you. That concludes our test record for now. Welcome to Friday, the 4th day of September 2020. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are listening in the world. Welcome to Bibles for Variety. We've got some great entertainment for you. Stay with us and enjoy the best entertainment you may like to hear. Any Bible chapters or a little bit of music, editions of Australian Radio Review with John Machen. So that's some of the things that will be happening here. We'll do our best to entertain you for the next few hours, and we'll be playing all the things that you might like to do, and well, you'll really enjoy yourself. So let's get on with this, and we'll hear a reading from Revelation.
Chapter 18 was made bright with his glory, and he called out with a mighty voice, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird of the passion of her sexual immorality. And the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living. Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you take part in her sins, lest you share in her plagues, for her sins are heaped high as heaven, and God had portion for her in the cup she mixed. As she glorified herself and lived in luxury, so give her a like measure of torment I shall never see. For this reason her plagues will come in a single day. The kings of the earth who committed sexual immorality and lived in luxury with her will weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. They will stand far off in fear of her torment and say, Alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city, Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo any more, cargo of gold, silver, jewels, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, scarlet cloth, all kinds of scented wood, all kinds of articles of ivory, all kinds of articles of costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble, cinnamon, spice, incense, that is, human souls. The fruit for which your soul longed has gone from you, and all your delicacies and your splendors are lost to you, never to be found again. The merchants of these wares who gained wealth from her will stand far off in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning aloud. Alas, alas for the great city that was clothed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, with jewels and with pearls. For in a single hour all this wealth has been laid waste. And all shipmasters and seafaring men far off and cried out, as they saw the smoke of her burning, What city was like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, crying out, Alas, alas, for the great city where all who had ships at sea grew rich by her wealth. For in a single hour given judgment for you against her. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon the great city be thrown down with violence, and will be found no more. And the sound of harpists and musicians, of flute players and trumpeters, will be heard in you no more. And a craftsman of any craft will be found in you no more. And the sound of the mill will be heard in you no more. And the light of a lamp will shine in you no more. And the voice of bridegroom and bride will be heard in you no more. Nations were deceived by your sorcery. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who have been slain on earth.
Hear this, you priests. Pay attention, you Israelites. Listen, royal house. This judgment is against you. You have been a snare at Mizpah, a net spread out on Tabor. The rebels are deep in slaughter. I will discipline all of them. I know all about Ephraim. Israel is not hidden from me. Ephraim, you have now turned to prostitution. Israel is corrupt. Their deeds do not permit them to return to their God. A spirit of prostitution is in their heart. They do not acknowledge the Lord. Israel's arrogance testifies against them. The Israelites, even Ephraim, stumble in their sin. Judah also stumbles with them. When they go with their flocks and herds to seek the Lord, they will know him. He has withdrawn himself from them. They are unfaithful to the Lord. They give birth to illegitimate children. When they celebrate their new moon feasts, he will wet their fields. On the day of reckoning, among the tribes of Israel, I proclaim what is certain. Judah's leaders are like those who move boundary stones. I will pour my wrath on them like a flood of water. Ephraim is oppressed, trampled in judgment, intent on pursuing idols. I am like a moth to Ephraim, like rot to the people of Judah. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his sores, then Ephraim turned and sent to the great king for help. But he is not able to cure you, not able to heal your sores. For I will be like a lion to Ephraim, like a great lion to Judah. I will tear them to pieces and go away. I will carry them off with no one to rescue them. Then I will return to my lair until they have borne their guilt and seek my face. In their misery, they will earnestly seek me.
And that was Hosea 5. And prior to that, we heard Revelation 18, I should say, Revelation 18, on Bibles Through Variety, and you're listening through Old Time Radio 2CM here in Newcastle. And let's continue on. Let's listen to Genesis chapter 9.
Chapter 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah, and sons with him, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark, to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. The sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died.
Climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah across from Jericho. There the Lord showed him the whole land from Gilead to Dan, all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region from the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him,
This is the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you will not cross over into it.
And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day, no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom, because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel.
Deuteronomy chapter 34 and probably Genesis chapter 9, read by Alexander Scorby. And Deuteronomy chapter 34 was from the inspired version of the Bible. This is Bibles Through Variety, and you're listening through Old Time Radio 2CM here in Newcastle.
Ryder Car Radio's rip prices on car radios to hit speakers totaling 112 watts of pounding power. Normally priced at $560, Ryder reduces it to $299. If you like a bit of meat in your music, Ryder have amplifiers totaling 200 watts of clean power, normally over $400.
2CM and the Hi-Fi Home Service, the music of your life.
Ruth chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night, and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after sister-in-law. But Ruth said, Urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, Is this Naomi? She said to them, Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought her-in-law with her, who returned from the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest.
Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that all whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that people do not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. That as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and pools of water, with springs flowing in the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where the rocks are iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. When you have eaten, be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, destroyed, like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God.
Chapter 18. At that time the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? If you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth. But woe to the one by whom the temptation comes. And if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life crippled or lame than with 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with one eye than with 2 eyes to be thrown into the hell of fire. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the go in search of the one that went astray. And if he finds it truly astray, so it is not the will to perish. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault, between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. How often will my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children. And out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him and forgave him the debt. But when that same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, Pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master summoned him and said to him, You, and in anger his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart. Chapter takes effect before the day passes away like chaff, before there comes upon you the burning anger of the Lord, before there comes upon you the day of the anger of the Lord. Seek the Lord, all you humble of the land, who do his just commands. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you may be hidden on the day of the anger of the Lord. For Gaza shall be deserted, and Ashkelon shall become a desolation. Ashdod's people shall be driven out at noon, and Ekron shall be uprooted. Woe to you, inhabitants of the seacoast, you nation of the Kerethites! The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, land of the Philistines. And I will destroy you until no inhabitant is left. And you, O seacoast, shall be pastures, with meadows for shepherds, and folds for flocks. The seacoast shall become the possession of the remnant of the house of Judah, on which they shall graze, and of Ashkelon lie down at evening. For the Lord their God will be mindful of them and restore their fortunes. I have taunts of Moab and the people, and made boasts against their territory. Therefore, as I live, declares the Lord of nettles and salt, he will famish all the gods of the earth, and to him shall bow down, each in its place, all the lands of the nations. His hand against the north, and destroy Assyria, and he will make Nineveh a desolation, a dry waste like the desert. It shall lie down in her midst, all kinds of beasts, even the owl and the hedgehog shall lodge in her halls. A voice shall hoot in the window, devastation will be on the threshold, for her cedar work will be laid bare. This is the exultant city that lived securely, that said in her heart, I am, and there is no one else. What a desolation she has become, a lair of wild beasts. Everyone who passes by her shakes his fist.
Radio, remember radio. We'd sit and close our eyes and use our imagination. Comedy, mystery, a fireside chat. Together we sat, listening nightly to our favorite show. Radio, why did you ever go? How long to turn the dial again to hear the president smile again? Radio, I miss you so.
Hello and welcome to Australian Radio Review, presenting memories of broadcasting and in the golden days of radio. This program will remember their favourite stations and personalities. It's hoped that those who missed out on all that will nonetheless enjoy the on-air chats, interviews and features we'll present in this series. But caution, listeners should realise that segments to time calls and commercial information does not necessarily apply today. Radio Review.
We're gonna get it uptight. Yeah. Everything is gonna be alright. Got to have a good time now. Come on along and find out how. 1500. Wonderful 3AK. Good guys.
In this edition of our program, we'll be replaying the final John Burgess, Peter Meehan, Ian Neal, Doug Ayton, Peter Hitchner, Brian. Gavin discusses with them their memories of working on 3AK, gets lots of anecdotes, and also finds out what else they've been doing in their lives. I trust that our interstate and international listeners who tune to radio in Australia. And so without any further ado, let's resume replay of the celebrations of AK's 70th birthday.
Listening to all of that, baby John Burgess, good evening.
G'day, Gavin. How you doing?
Look, I'm very well. I just put you on there at the end. I just wanted to. Might have thought you could have kept Sparksy honest there for a second.
Yeah, you mentioned someone's name.
I've got a little jingle I want to play.
Yeah.
Listen.
From the heart of beautiful downtown Richmond, this is Friendly 3AK, presenting the Baby John Show.
Takes you back?
Yeah, mate, it's so long ago. I mean, I was straight out of primary school, unlike all these old people you've been talking to. 3AK. I was still old, but I was just out of primary school.
Yeah, of course. Look, and I will believe you, but gee,
yeah, 1970 it was.
Exciting times in radio, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And
now you became the first jock to beat the long-time Breakfast Kings at 3UZ Don Lunn and at 3DB John Eden.
Yeah, Lunny and John Eden used to sort of share breakfast between them. One would win one survey and then the other one would win the next one and so on. It'll be going on for quite a few years. And this upstart came to town, which I have to thank Gary Day for. I mean, he was the one at first, and he didn't actually have a job for me to do it. He just thought that I should be down in Melbourne on 3AK because I started my career in Sydney at 2UW. I was the first disc jockey as such to get a job in a major market with no experience whatsoever.
So did you always want to get into radio when you were younger?
No, I didn't. I mean, I left school, I was playing tennis. That's all I sort of did. And then I got into 10-pin bowling.
Right.
And that's where I met Lawsy. And, I mean, Sparksy was quite right. I mean, Lawsy had on me in that at that time.
In the car department?
Oh, no, not in the car department, in the radio business. I mean, it was he that talked me into sort of getting interested I taught him to bowl and he taught me about radio. I used to go and watch him work on 2GB and I taught him to bowl and he got polio and I sort of helped with his after hospital bits, if you like. Well, I taught him to bowl left hand and ended a limp, if you notice. And the bowling business took a bit of a downfall in about 1960, end of 1964. So for a job at that was 1965, and I wasn't that young. I might add, I was 21 or something at the time.
What at 3OK?
No, at 2UW.
Right. Okay.
That's where I got Baby John from. Ward Austin, who said. Well, I still get referred. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I haven't called myself Baby John since 1904 or something or other, but tossed on them.
Yeah.
It sticks.
Yeah.
And it's stuck for a long time. And, you know, without sort of, if you pardon the expression, piddling my own. Yeah.
And good things to come, I hear.
Yeah, well, when we first started to do Catchphrase, of course, you know, that emanated, decided that, you know, it was time for change. So I'm doing, as I said, same face, same suit, same time, same channel, different show next year.
Good on you. You must look with great fondness to, you know, with your career, because, you know, when we all got into radio all those years ago, our parents, you know, frowned on us and CEO.
Oh yeah.
You know, you've made a wonderful career out of radio and television. You know, from talking, presenting yourself well.
Well, Gavin, I've been very lucky. I believe. You know, I just. There's been a number of, you know, something which has turned out to be a bit better. I mean, from adversity, you know, one door, as I say, one door slams, another one opens. But I believe I've been pretty lucky. I must admit, you know, I enjoy what I do, and I'm blessed that I can go to work, have a good time, and go home again. You know, a lot of people can't do that, unfortunately.
And you're still doing it, doing breakfast radio in Sydney.
Yeah. If you'd asked me why, I got no answer to
I was
that
just
question.
about to say, you're too old for that, aren't you? Hey, come
Thanks very
on,
much.
get real.
Well, I thought it would be a good idea if John Singleton, who owns 2CH, who I work, wanted me to do breakfast on that radio station, and he thought that'd be a good idea, get me down to Sydney, so I'd be sort of Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
So I said I'd do it for a year. Well, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it, and my ego sort of let me go. I still figure I can do a little better than I am, but
Yes.
all this year,
And you just never get used to the time frame.
I have no problem getting up. It doesn't affect my life all that much. I must admit, I'm a bit more difficult now to get out during the week, but you know, I lead a normal sort of life, and it's terrific. I mean, I come off the air at 9 o'clock and lose me time to do other things.
Well, it's great to catch up with you, you old wrinkly.
Yeah, when Wrinkly's Fly, wasn't that sensational? I mean, it was just the best campaign. It was just tremendous.
Well,
What's I haven't spoken to Brett Walker. Where is he?
well, we tried to get him, but he's now moved on, and he is, you know, has fond memories of that time. But he's a professor. He's attacked that with the same.
That's where cats tend to work. It was just amazing. He's a good bloke, Brett. He used to call me Bubbler.
Why?
No, don't know.
Okay, have a listen to this old Wrinkly's jingle.
Right. Yeah, Doug Clarkin.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Baby John Burgess, thank you for your time tonight.
To 3AK. Good luck, 3AK, too, in the new endeavours. I hope it all goes well, and good luck to you, Woodsy.
Thank you, mate. Good to catch up with you.
Therapies for healing and restorative qualities of seawater are used. There's HydroTubs, programmed by a therapist. My Hilda, call 9525 3011.
Well, in our look back on 70 years of 3AK, we're kind of nearly to the end of the No Wrinklies and heading for the beautiful music era, 16 past 8. One of the guys on the air back then in the early 70s was a guy called Barry Mann, and he's on the line right now, but his real name, as a lot of Melburnians would remember, is Brian Lehman. Hi, Brian.
G'day, Gavin. Nice to be with you on 3AK on the 70th year. An amazing birthday.
Well, it is, and we've been having a ton of fun tonight speaking with all the old jocks from back then, and you were one of them. Why
did you have to change to Barry Mann?
Well, it was one of those things. Thanks, by the way, for letting me listen to the last couple of guys. I've been sitting here quite enthralled to hear Burjo and Ken Sparks.
They're great fellas, aren't they?
Across the Nullarbor, and I noticed reference to Rhett Walker there. You couldn't talk about 3AM. I had previously worked at 3XY, which was even in those days, maybe late 69, 70, was kind of a rock and roll station. And I ended up at 3AK in 1971. So Rhett gave me that name. He said that Brian Lehman didn't sound like a jock, as he used to call you. People on the radio were known as jocks or disc jockeys. I think Rhett was probably, because of his American background, that was very much a thing that they did in America. They gave you catchy names. So he said, we're going to call you Barry Mann. But he didn't tell until I walked in there the day that I was about to start. And I'd kind of had the job interview. And then he said, oh, hi, Barry, and name. And he said, I'm going to let you keep half of the Lehman, so you're Barry Mann. So I said, thank you very much. So it was kind of embarrassing because, my paychecks used to come to Brian Lehman, and I'd known most of the guys around the radio station as Brian Lehman, but occasionally there was where, Burjo might say Brian Lehman or Barry Mann's coming in next, and but we kind of got around it, and it was just a great era, and particularly good to hear from Ken Sparks there because. And I am showing my age because I was actually Ken Sparks' panel operator in Sydney when he first came to Sydney in the 60s.
Gee.
And just to explain to your listeners, a panel operator was somebody who usually sat in another room. And once upon a time, they had these things. I know people will find it amazing to believe it. They had these things called records. And they were
vinyl things.
Yeah, they were kind of round black things with a hole in the middle.
That's right, and the turntables had like strange felt pads on them.
Yeah, and we had four of the panel operator as he was then used to play these records, and it was a strange way to make a living. It was my introduction, and Ken Sparks again, a very classy man, a very stylish operator, and. I learned a lot from him in my early career too, so it was great to lob in there in 1971, and Ken was there and had been a part of Melbourne radio for quite some time.
So did you always want to get into radio, or was that just your first job, out of uni or school or wherever?
I think I always did, Gavin. Yeah, I grew up in Sydney and gravitated towards Melbourne, but I grew up, the guys sort of mentioning Ward Austin and John Laws, of course. And I was listening to those and thinking, that wouldn't add sort of a job, but that stage. And the show was called Rumpus Room, would you believe, with the great Howard Craven comparing.
Oh, yes.
And my first introduction to radio was looking in this control room and seeing a guy with not 4 but 6 turntables and a couple of tape recorders. And I thought, this is a pretty interesting way to earn a living, to get here.
Radio stations in Melbourne, and then you disappeared over to Perth.
Went over to Perth quite some time ago and came back to Melbourne briefly in the 90s, but basically I've been based in Perth, and I
in my mind, and I still wear them.
He still does, because I'm working at the same radio station or in the same building as Lionel. I'm working at 1086IX, which is a radio station that plays oldies. Needless to say, because that's kind of music of our era.
Yes.
Good time oldies, as the cliche goes. Lionel is in that particular radio station, 6IX.
All right, so you're still doing it. How many years have you been in the business now, Brian?
Probably about 1964, 65, across the road to 2 years. Did some work as Bob Rogers and John Laws, etc., as I mentioned. Ended up doing Midnight to Dawn there at about 20 when I got the Midnight to Dawn shift.
Good on you.
And Brinkley's jingles that you mentioned. He sends his regards, of course. He was over here for a couple of shows in Perth and a few around other circuits around the country. I asked him about those Brinkley's jingles. He was very much a part of that. He produced them.
Yeah.
And was the program director of the radio station at that time.
Right.
And he said just what a great experience it was working with Rhett, using somebody that's never, and he just said go with that kind of creativity, and it was just really exciting atmosphere to be in. You weren't coming to work, as Burjo said. You were, in that case, the 3AK thing, you were going to show business. Like I say, it's around.
I'm sure there's a couple that sound like Paddy Newton. You know,
their time.
Yeah.
And that campaign eventually, I think you had John O'Donnell on the other night talking about the battle between 3XY and 3AK.
Yes, we did.
In the end, I think both radio stations won because I think short-term, 3 really well documented that Red Walker went away for a couple of weeks, came back and implemented the first beautiful music format in Melbourne, not the first one in Australia, but certainly the first in Melbourne. And that beautiful music format took 3AK to number 1 in one survey.
That's right. Well, in the end, the listener always wins because when there's good, healthy radio competition,
You'll hear the most beautiful radio on radio since radio. 3AK. Beautiful music.
And we say a very good evening to Mr. Peter Hitchener.
Hello, Gavin Wood. How are you?
I'm fine, Hitch. How's yourself?
Mate, very well, thanks. Gosh, it takes you back, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yeah.
1980, I think, was my time. I think that's when my time at 3AK started.
Was that when it was beautiful music?
Certainly was beautiful music.
Now, you did breakfast or mornings from memory?
I did breakfast for about 3 years. I was there, I think, all up for about 5 or 6 years on 3AK. Did a variety of shifts. But breakfast was the one that seemed to work best because I was also working, of course, at the time at National 9 News.
Yes.
3AK was in the same building as Channel 9. It was part of the Channel 9 group at the time.
You could just fall down the hallway.
Actually, fall upstairs. So my breakfast generally by 10 a.m. and that left me free for the memories.
Peter, the team is basically still there. You know, when you consider Ken Sparks is now, the voiceover guy for the national network on Channel 9.
Yep.
And Peter Smith, who's been there for 100 years, doing all the voiceovers on Channel 9 in Victoria.
Yes.
And you, now the chief newsreader after Brian Naylor, all worked at 3AK. So was there any pressure for you to work at 3AK?
Well, before that, I'd been working at another station as well because I had done radio earlier on in my career.
I remember you on the ABC in Brisbane.
That's exactly. And eventually they said, look, you might as well work for the same company, work for our station. And so I did, and it was wonderful fun. It's funny, I know it's no doubt been mentioned earlier in the festivities, but another of my colleagues worked for 3AK. Bless him, what a wonderful man. And it really had a great tradition, and it was I really enjoyed my time at AK. We had a good time in breakfast, had some success in breakfast, and it was marvelous. And the funny thing was, music non-stop, you got to know all the tracks. And during my time there, my 5 years there, I got to know every beautiful music track in the catalogue, which is about 5,000. But couldn't tell you what was in the top 40 anymore.
Yes, that was the same with me just recently, Ed. I had to go back and listen to radio just to get back on the cutting edge again.
It's funny, isn't it?
Now, beautiful music. Did it put you to sleep, or did you only listen to the first 5 seconds and the last 5 seconds of every song you play?
Sunday breakfast after a particular, it was somewhere between 5 and 6, and we'll find it hard to believe. But in my time there, anyway, there weren't any Mantovani tracks, but it was something slow and lush and stringy, and I went to sleep during it. And what woke me was the whaler in the studio saying, "We're off the air." Well, actually, it was only because I dozed off for a minute. That was the only time in my period at 3AK it happened.
Oh dear. Then a great competitor in Melbourne radio. I mean, beautiful music did go to number 1, and 3AK and its many guises went to number 1. No Wrinklies.
That's right.
I'm not sure about the good guys, but no Wrinklies and particular beautiful music were number 1 radio stations in this town.
Yes, well, I remember that we were always in the breakfast club. We were always in the top 2 or 3 stations. Just it varied, it moved around a little bit, but I can remember a couple of surveys beating the formidable Peter Evans on radio. It always seemed to me that beautiful was rather a hard kind of format to have at number 1 in any of the main times when people might be listening for more news or more more talk or whatever. But you know, look, it was a terrific station, and both Breakfast and Drive always acquitted themselves well, as did the rest of the shifts in the day.
There's music in the air. Let it breathe. Beautiful music, take you
And coming up this hour, Matavati. Manuel and his orchestra sings. And every other boring song we have in our library.
Let breathe. Beautiful music.
Oh, I think I've done it.
Sounds like Gavin isn't too impressed with beautiful music, or is he just joking? Yes, Gavin is working in America.
Hey, mind that car.
Oh, all right.
Careful, Fred.
I'll turn it up here.
Where'd you get that car?
For summer selling spree. A car radio, the most powerful car radio of all, can even drown you out.
Where?
And anything that shuts you up is well worth 11 and 6 a week.
The big four are they'll fit one in your car immediately. Remember, an AWA car radio, only 11 and...
Hello, Hi-Fi service. Now you cleft crackers anymore, but you can always start the day off with a bang on the Hi-Fi service.
Review on Hi-Fi service 2CM.
Ray Lawrence, good evening.
Evening, Gavin.
How are you?
I am well, and a happy birthday to 3AK. Hearing Ray again, we of course were colleagues in the
music days, Ray. It was a good feeling there, wasn't it?
It was a terrific feeling, Gavin, and of course there's always been the critics of that particular format. Personally, I feel there's still room for it somewhere in the marketplace, and it's a pity we don't have it at this stage. But
still looking for a gig, Ray?
Oh, absolutely, looking for any gig, really. But in the first three spots, consistently competition, Darren on one side and Bert on the other.
Gee, that's a formidable competition.
Yeah.
Tonight. Congratulations on the ratings on National 9 News too, Pete. You're doing a great job. Voices. Everyone spoke about the beautiful voice of Ray Lawrence.
Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear.
Now, Ray, did you work on this, or was this just a natural occurrence?
No, when I was 3 years old, I said to Mum, I'd like another glass of milk, please. And she said, certainly, son. 41 years behind the microphone.
So where did Ray Lawrence start, and did you always want to be a radio announcer?
Absolutely, Gavin. From not quite as young as 3, but I would guess sensibly at the age of 10.
Yeah.
And I was listening to guys on the air back in those days, and I said, that's what I want to do. When Mum brought home and Grandma brought home the groceries, I'd be selling the Vicks and the potatoes and all of that jazz. In fact, if Bert Newton is still listening, I hope he's got a copy. Princess Theatre, that's why in those days.
Gee.
He was doing Midnight to Dawn.
And then he went to the dark side and went to the ABC.
He went to the ABC.
Yeah.
Then I went around to La Trobe Street.
Right.
And I just thought, Gavin, some of the names I just across you that were there when I got there.
Oh, please do.
David Lowe.
Right.
Who was the voice of those newsreels you used to see, worked with Jack Davey and all the greats on radio. Colin McEwen was there.
Yes.
Blackers, John Blackman. Ian Stewart was there. Rod McNeil. Richard Coob. John Brightonstone in managerial.
Yes.
Dick Casey, who sadly passed away recently.
Yeah, that was very sad.
Very sad.
We really missed Dick. He was...
great disciplined PD too.
And still doing it too?
Yeah.
So, community radio now, you're putting a little...
I really hope that the new 3AK goes well, too. I've got a little funny story about beautiful music, which might give you a smile.
Please do.
But we had a guy and I know you're running close to time,
yes.
But we had a guy called Rob Maynard working with us at one stage, and Rob
I know Rob.
Had a little problem with the eyesight. And so in those days, all of the music was on cartridge tapes.
Right.
And Marmalade Rob's filing back his unfinished with musical cartridges.
Yeah.
Marmalade jumps on the console, activates all 6 music channels to air at the same time. And Rob thinking to himself, what an unusual arrangement of Love Story by Andre Kostelanetz.
Oh, that's a lovely Great time. Yeah.
Great.
Ray, it's great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Gavin.
And it's also just pure silk.
Well, it's beautiful in its current format and supported listeners. It's a great station.
Ray Lawrence, I thank you very much.
Bye, Gavin.
Bye. And welcome back to our romp through 70 years of 3AK, the history of 19 to 9. And news director from the late 70s to the late 80s, mostly during the beautiful...
Hi there, Gavin.
How are you?
I'm well, and what a great night it's been.
Oh,
Happy birthday, and Peter Hitchener.
Yeah.
And a name that Ray mentioned was Rob Maynard. I worked with Rob at 3UL in Warragul and then at 3KZ. Forgotten about sure.
Well, why not? It's a...
I'm just crazy about space.
On the Melbourne City Council's negotiations to buy the Theosophical Society. Better than it looks, as more vehicles are on the roads, travelling a much greater mileage. But that's toll sale
behind him too.
That was sensational. Now, by contrast, in the mid-80s, have a listen to Mike Woods.
7 o'clock. Good morning. Mike Woods, 3AK News. Police say they are disgusted at appalling and anti-social...
Completely different, and of course that went from the Wrinkleys era into the beautiful music era, and everything was slowed down just so much.
Yeah.
I was at 3KZ when Barry was doing that at AK. The management at 3KZ in those days decided we'd better imitate that, but we didn't have a bip, we had just the one bip. So it was something that was that sort of grew, I suppose, throughout the radio industry, as everyone copies everyone else, I suppose, in some way.
And you would have worked way through, which I died in a
channel manager. But within, I think, around about the first 12 months, Vern was 9, and I think he actually started out as an office boy at 9, or a mail boy delivering the mail around. He was more like a friend or a mate than a manager of a radio station. He was an absolutely great fella. And he had hundreds of involved in that as well.
Yeah.
And that was borne out just, as you said, 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was killed. And there was around about 600 or 700 people at the funeral for Dick, and some great tributes were paid to him by people within the radio industry and people within the advertising industry in general. And a great guy, Dick, and certainly an untimely death.
So you being news director from the late 70s to the late 80s of 3AK in different guises, from beautiful music to the rock format, there would have been a few stories that maybe can be told now that protect the innocents or something?
One or two. I just heard that Peter was doing the breakfast program. But one day cricket, which was what was called pajama cricket or something. The Packer radio stations and television stations, the television stations telecasted, and the radio stations kept up the scores. So between the news bulletins, we had to run scores down to the on-air guys in the studio. And one of the fellows who was doing night,
that's great.
And we got lots of phone calls.
Yeah.
And the day that the 3AK changed from beautiful music to the new rock format, we had thousands of telecalls.
Oh, you would.
That was a horrendous day. It really was. You know, Wrinkly's Fire, when it changed, millions of them had changed its music format, and they were crying. They really were. It was a dreadful day. That.
What does Ian Neal do now? These days?
I work for World Vision, Gavin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I moved from 3AK to Channel 9, and I was a reporter for Channel 9 and then Deputy Chief of Staff.
Yes.
And I did that for 11 years, and then 4 years ago I left.
You're doing a great job. It's a fine organisation. And straight after this break, we'll remember the more modern times of 3AK. What's that? The big...
I just know you're there, babe. To the music, and that babe, we're on it any other way. Now hear the music. Hear the music. Hear the music.
Celebrating 70 years of 3AK tonight, and our next guy is a great fella. He has been one of the best breakfast announcers in this town. Also program director of the city. Where did you get that? Now, Peter, I always fall down and bless you every time I think of you because you came around to my house and offered me a job after, well, this week anyway. But you've had a fabulous career in radio, haven't you?
Well, getting the sack, I reckon I was very fortunate, actually, not to get the sack.
Never happened to you because you were good at it.
Well, I take that as a huge compliment from you, one of the great champions. But when I started out in 1966 right through to 1996, I go totally uninterrupted with my radio career.
Yeah.
3AK had an Italian programming signal that was taken off the air, and part of the license was that they be in a state of situ or silence. And then we resumed as Beautiful Music 3AK.
17 years of breakfast radio. I take my hat off to you. But this was in the messy
to radio over a significant number. We were quite hell-bent to get the signal up and running, try to get some audience share, some semblance of audience share, then move the station onto a new owner. And during that 2-year period, getting was a challenge beyond human comprehension because my ideas at the time did not quite have the support of station management. Interesting music format generated by or supported by the most interesting radio personalities who were available at the time for the amount of money the station was prepared to pay. So, but we had enormous music expertise in getting to the outside world know that this music format was in fact available.
Nothing much has changed though, Peter. Now let's move on, shall we? You are now, I would say, one of the premier corporate MCs, motivational speakers in this country.
The engine room of the Melbourne and the Australian corporate community, and trying to deliver to them exactly what they need in terms of media communication, strategic media with the inadvertence of the government sector, semi-government community, and the private sector.
Right. And you give them those skills, and you have many years to draw on, mate. And thank you very much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Gavin, my closing comment is to wish 3AW all the best.
Well, you could probably say 3AK, but still.
Gavin, I'd like to wish a very happy 3AK is in fact right on the springboard.
Thank you very much. And the red's on me next time I see you.
Good luck to you, Gavin.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
It's 3 to 9, and sadly, and who better to close it with than the presenter coming on next, Doug Ayton.
Hello, Gavin. Yes, I've heard most of your program tonight. It's been a wander down memory lane, hasn't it?
A bit of a stroll, and a lot of funny stories come out of tonight, and I really appreciate everybody's effort.
You wanna be really tuned up, stay on 3AK all day.
And so we come to the end of this special, celebrating the 70th birthday of 3AK. The program, which would have been broadcast in 2001, which would have been the 70th year, was hosted by Gavin Wood. So I thought you might be interested to commercials. Let's play a series of them now to bring us up to the end of the program.
Come on now. Come on. If you're looking for the best from your radio, and if you want
As winter's days linger into spring, let the gloom stay on the outside. Inside, warm to the beautiful music. It's a fine day, a live day in Melbourne. The sun sparkles off the bay, the trees nod gently. And we'd like to share that good feeling with you and the beautiful music that is 3AK. Music of 3AK warm you too. He's outside, and the rain that is 3AK. It's an afternoon you want to forget. The clouds are heavy. The air is solid with cold. Warm with the beautiful music of 3AK.
Friendly 3AK with the good guys.
Let the good times roll. Get it in your soul. Let's have some good time fun. It's music all day. 3AK. Come on. Come on. Come on. Keep moving your way. Come on. Smile.
Good Guy Radio, wonderful 3AK.
Hey, good guys. We're gonna get it a good time now. Come on along and find out how. 1500.
Wonderful 3AK.
Good guys.
1500, wonderful 3AK. 1500, wonderful 3AK. Pete Smith.
The best in Melbourne on your radio. Remember this number, 1500. Whenever you listen, 1500.
Listen now to what we say. Australia's number one DJ is top of the dial on 3AK. Bob Rogers. Da 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 da. If you want to be in the know, just stay right here on 3AK with the Robert B. Rogers Show.
Well, I'm off again next time when we'll be back for another edition of the show. So till then, it's cheers for now.
Sent those shivers up our spine. Uncle Don, I wish that you were on. Jack Armstrong, Nerd and Marge, Amos and Andy. Oh, why don't you turn the dial again to hear the pastor smile again? Radio, I miss you, sonio, fonio, donio, do. Radio, I miss you so.
The church is one, one nation is Jesus Christ the Lord. She is His new creation by Spirit and the Word. From Christ, with His own blood, from every nation, one faith, one birth. One holy name she blesses, partakes one holy food, and to one hope she presses, tribulation and tumult of the war, till with the vision glorious her longing eyes are blessed. And the great church victorious shall be the church.
Your livestock in the field, Israel, and that of Egypt, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die. The Lord set a time and said, tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land. The next day the Lord did it. All the land would not let the people go. Just toss it into the air in the presence of Pharaoh. It will become fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, and festering boils will break out on people and animals throughout. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils that were on them and on all the. And say to him, This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. Or at this time, I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people. So there's no one like me in all the earth against my people and will not let them go. Therefore, at this time tomorrow, give an order now to bring your livestock and everything you have in the field to a place of shelter. Stretch out your hand toward the sky so that hail will fall all over Egypt, on people and animals, and on everything growing in the fields of Egypt. When Moses stretched out his staff toward the sky, the Lord sent thunder and hail, and lightning flashed down to Egypt since it had become animals. It beat down everything growing in the fields and stripped every tree. The only place it did not hail was the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were.
Bring me Moses
Then
and Aaron
Pharaoh
now.
summoned Moses and Aaron.
This time I have sinned. I will let you go. You don't have to stay any longer.
Moses replied,
When I've gone out of the city, I will speak, and there will be no more hail. So you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But I know that you...
Flax and barley were destroyed, since the barley had headed and the flax was in bloom. The wheat and spelt, however, were not destroyed, because they ripened later. Then he left Pharaoh and went out of the city. He spread out his hands toward the Lord. The thunder and hail stopped, and the rain no longer poured down on the land. Hardened their hearts. So Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had said through Moses.
Understand me. You give me love and consolation. You give me hope to carry on. And you try to show your love for me. In everything you do, that's the wonder of you. The world is brighter. You touch my hand and I'm a king. Your kiss to me is worth a fortune. Your love lend a hand in all I try. The wonder of you. I guess I'll never know the reason why you love me as you do. That's the wonder of
There. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the people of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him in commandment to them, after he had defeated Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who the Lord our God said to us in Horeb, You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Turn and take you, and in the Negeb, and by the seacoast, the land of the Canaanites, and Lebanon, to you, and behold, you are today as numerous as the stars of heaven. May the Lord, the God of your fathers, make you 1,000 times as many as you are, and bless you, as he has promised you. How can I bear by myself the weight and burden of you and your strife? Choose for your tribes wise, understanding. And so I took the heads and hundreds, commanders of 50s, commanders of 10s, and officers throughout your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, hear the cases between your brothers, and judge righteously man and his brother, or the alien who is with him. You shall not be partial in judgment. You shall hear the small and the time all the things that you should do. Then we set out from the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us, and we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, do not fear or be dismayed. Then all of you came near me and said, let us just go up, and the cities into which we shall come. The thing seemed good to me, and I took 12 men from you, 1 man from each tribe. And they turned and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out, to destroy us. Where are we going up? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are greater and have seen the sons of the Anakim there. Then I said to you, do not be in dread or afraid of them. Lord your God who goes before you will himself fight for you, just as he did for you in Egypt before your the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet in others, except Caleb, which he trodden because he wholly followed the Lord. And with me the Lord was angry on your account, and said, you also shall not go in there. Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. And as for your little ones, who you said would become a prey, and your children against you, and chased you as bees do, and beat you down and give ear to you. So you remained in Kadesh many days, the days that you remained there.
Will not sin. But if anybody does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ, of the whole world. Him. But do not do what he commands are liars, and the truth is not in them. But if anyone obeys his word, love for God is truly made complete in them. This is how we know one, which you have heard since the beginning. This old command is the message you have heard. Yet I am writing you a new command. Its truth is in him and in you still in the darkness. Those who love their fellow believers live in the light, and there is nothing in them to make them stumble. But those who hate a fellow believer are in the darkness and walk around in the darkness. They do not know where they are going because the darkness has blinded them. I am writing to you him because you know him who is from the beginning. I write to you, young people, because you are strong, and the word of God lives in you, and you have overcome the evil one. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If you love the world, love for the Father is not in you. For everything in the world, the cravings of sinful people, the lust of their eyes, and their boasting about what they have and do comes not from the Father, but from the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. The antichrists have come, went out from us. They not really belong to us. For if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But their going showed that none of them belonged to us. But you have an anointing from the Holy One, and all of you know the truth. I do not write to you because you do not know who denies the Son has the Father.